art can mean different things to different people. For me, it's all about the joy of creating. So if you draw, paint, write, dance, sing, craft, play air guitar, or even sculpt using nothing but mashed potatoes, consider yourself an artist and join the conversation. For the next half hour, meet the artist, learn about their inspiration, and enjoy the beauty of creativity. Welcome to Art Talk with John Cole Artist. Well, all right, good evening, everyone. It's John Cole Artist, and welcome to tonight's Art Talk podcast, which, by the way, I hadn't planned on having tonight. 2 weeks ago, I thought, well, I'll take a 2-week break because I had a trip down to Atlanta. And then while I was down in Atlanta, Lucinda Bentley suggested, hey, why don't we talk a little bit about this event that we all went to? And I thought, what a great idea. So tonight, I'm very, very fortunate. Oh, the day. Michelle, what was today? The
10/24/23.
Thank you. Because you never know. Somebody might look back on this someday and not know what date it is. So.
Okay.
But with me tonight, I have Lucinda Bentley. This is her 4th time on the podcast, so she is the true veteran of the group. Anna Davis. I have Heather Doran, Karen Albert, and Coach Michelle Sullivan. Welcome, ladies. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out to talk with me tonight.
Glad to be here, John.
Thanks for inviting us over.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. It'd be cool if you guys were all here and we could just do it all as a big group, but logistically, it probably wouldn't be too easy. But hey, we just got done with an incredible event down in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll start off by saying that I got to see you all speak and you all did amazing.
Oh, thank you, John.
You know, I did my speech as well, and I know there were some parts in there that, despite my best efforts on remembering what I wanted to say, came out a little bit different than the way I wanted it. So the thing I walked away with right up front is that these things are never going to be perfect, which is a great thing, because that's what makes us, because we are imperfect being. And Christine's on, Christine Cole. She says, hello, beautiful souls.
Hi, Christine.
Yeah, so I thought we would start off by just getting your overall feelings on, well, we'll start with the whole thing, right? Because there was a writing process, because we all wrote a chapter in the Behind the Power book, which, by the way, is available on Amazon in print copy. So if you folks that are watching or listening to the replay, pop over to Amazon and look for Behind the Power, Your Success is Waiting on You, by Allyson Roberts, and on the back are all our pretty faces. But now's the time to get it. So I'll start with you, Lucinda. What was your overall experience? I'll just leave that as an open-ended question. What do you think about that whole process? Because it was a very complicated process, right?
It was an amazing process. It was growth like I had not expected, nor have ever experienced before. The whole process of committing to this journey and then doing all the steps that it takes to get there. Besides the fact that this is an internal journey in way many more ways than what those 2 words can mean. It's not just about writing a book. It's a personal journey that you go on. And you come out on the other side of it. On the other side of the chapter, I came out a different person. And then on the other side of the speech, I came out a different person. Yeah. Total growth everywhere. So it was amazing for me. I would not trade the experience for anything else that I have ever experienced other than the birth of my children, maybe. That's it.
Yeah, it was that powerful. I think the whole event was that powerful. Now, Heather, what did you think? Because this was your first time doing being on stage and speaking. What did you think about that?
I was definitely excited and nervous, but I think overall it was a great experience. I mean, I really love to be able to interact with the audience, and I love that the audience was still pretty small. And, coming off stage and just throughout the 3 days, we could really just interact with each other and connect with each other. So that's what I loved most about this type of event.
Right. Yeah. And I thought it was really nice too, because we had the opportunity to meet some people that we didn't know, which, in my mind makes it even better, because I think that's the one thing that I took away. Because this was my second year speaking, of course, my third year participating, and each time I walk away making new friends, which is pretty amazing when you think about it, because we're a pretty close group, right?
Yeah.
But then you meet these other people and you realize that these people are no different than us. They have the same struggles, they have the same concerns. They're just not writing chapters and speaking about it yet, right? So Michelle, what about
Yeah.
you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, that was that really rang true, that, people, like, we're all really struggling with a lot of the same things, or we have a lot of the same fears. And it was really nice to be in the company of like-minded people, and really be, and I don't even want to use the word positive, negative, but not in the scenario where a lot of conferences, like, people are complaining and stuff like that. And that's not really what this was. And it wasn't this overly positive thing either. So that's what, I feel like I really took away from the experience.
Yeah, I love that. And Michelle, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, so this was my third time attending, second time participating in the up level part of it, of writing a chapter and doing a speech. And I will say, I felt like for me that this year was a lot easier presenting than last year. The topic of childhood sexual abuse, getting up on stage and talking about that in front of a bunch of people and writing about that in my chapter the first time, that was new for me, and my nerves, I think I was afraid, but I had no reason to be afraid, because I was with people who loved me, I was safe, and it was okay,
Right.
so doing the speech this year and writing my chapter, I felt a lot calmer about it. And so I was one of those people the year before that my speech never sounds like what it's written to be, you know?
Right.
And so I don't know if I told you guys this, but as I would practice, my dachshund would sit and look at me, and she was my audience, and she would go, just,
Yeah.
and I would laugh, and I thought, this is so perfect. So I can get up on stage and I see my Roxy Doxy, and I just got up there and had fun.
Yeah.
But I got to share a message that made impact on people's lives. Actually, all of your speeches, everyone's speeches, touched my heart and my mind in a different way.
Yep.
And I was sitting next to Jonathan the day that I gave my speech, and he took a picture of something that I said, and
Mhm.
and this was a quote that he took from something that I said. He said, "Saying yes to yourself after experiencing a loss," and he said, "That's what I needed to hear."
Yeah.
And in my conversation with him, he was talking to me about the losses that he's experienced, and he's had to do some work around that. So we never know how
Right.
we are impacting people just by sharing our story. So it was a good experience for me. I loved it.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. The fact that you had real-time impact like that is a special thing. I'm not saying that it didn't happen with everyone, because it probably did, but I don't know if people would tend to walk up to you and say certain things, right? Because they're still processing it. They're still trying to understand how it relates. But I guarantee you that, and I agree with you, the speeches that everybody made impacted. And Karen, I can think of nobody else's that impacted as much as yours during the conference. Um, what's your overall feeling about how it went for you?
Well, being my first year, starting out with writing the book and then going into the speech, I think that my first juggling moment was, are they the same? Are they different? Is it a continuation of the story in the book? and what happened for me is I had a real life experience during the time of writing the chapter and writing the speech. So it was happening as I was writing it.
Mm,
And so it was really a current story, or it had just happened, and then going into this next phase of my life. But what happened was, from everything that we've learned about releasing our past and being seen and being heard, I was able to go back into those events of my past life and bring them forward, and in a way that was really empowering for me. But I know that I touched others because of how it all came out. Like you just said, John, after the speech, and my speech, it was it went along, and then I had moments of just forgetting where I
mhm.
was. And I froze a few times. And in that moment I just tried, you know, where are the words, and tried to pick up somehow. It was really wonderful when Laura came up to me and started engaging me in some questions, and that really helped. But to come out on the other side and then to be approached after leaving the stage by so many people
Right.
to tell me that, what I said mattered,
Mhm.
even though it was broken up a little bit, in my opinion, that meant the world to me. And what you said, John, this sense of community that was in the room, I felt that when I was up on stage. I felt the, um, the, the just the wonderful emotion from everyone. And that gave me strength,
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I thought,
inspiration.
for those that, the three of the six of us that are on tonight, three were brand new to this. And Anna specifically, you did an amazing job. I mean, both you and Michelle, actually, when you guys both stepped on the stage and you started to speak, I'm like, who are these people?
You were
Seriously,
right
I
there
mean,
too, John.
yeah, I just was so impressed with the growth between last year and this year, not only as far as the chapters go. And again, folks, if you really should buy the book, and I'm saying that because there's so much value in hearing these stories. But the amount of growth, Anna, between last year and this year, is just striking. So how did you approach it this year compared with last year? What was different? What changed?
So last year, I thought that I had to memorize it perfectly.
Hmm.
And so I guess I was still stuck in a little perfectionism then. And so this year, when I practiced, there were a few lines that I wanted because they were one-liners that I wanted to get that reaction. And I
Mhm.
believe that I got all my one-liners in. So that was what I was going for. But I each time that I practiced it, I didn't say it exactly the same way. It was changed up a little bit. That way, when I got up on stage, I wouldn't have to remember the exact wording
Right.
instead, so and last year, um, I just kept having aha moments after aha moments. When the very first Behind the Power that I attended, I just attended. I wasn't participating, but at that point, I had already signed up to do the second one,
Mhm.
and I was sitting there thinking, at that first one, are you crazy? You can't do this. It's
Mhm.
too hard. I don't know how. The whole thing. But I'm so glad that I did say yes to it. And
Yeah.
then last year at the end, and came back home, I was sitting here and I was so sad because that it was over, because I had experienced so much growth and up leveling. And I was like, man, I told my husband, I said, I want to do it again. And then saw the email inviting me to do it again. And I was like, yes, yes.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I'm so glad that I said yes to myself,
Yeah.
because I'd been denying myself my whole life, putting everyone else ahead of me.
Right.
including my dogs and cats. Everybody else was more important than me. And when I finally decided that I mattered,
Yep.
it helps everyone around me too.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting thing that you said, because I think I would argue that all of us on the screen probably have had that same issue, over the years, where we do tend to believe that our purpose is to serve others. And I don't think there's anything wrong with serving others. I mean, I spent a long time in the Coast Guard, so I get it. But I think there's a slight difference between being of service to others and then serving others. I think there's a really big difference there. And the fact that, we've all been able to realign that, to realize that we really are the most important people in our lives. And I think what this event demonstrated, and the chapter demonstrated, is that it's about time we use our voices, because like with you, Michelle, and Jonathan, who was sitting next to you, and all these other people that either watched virtually or were there at the event, it's changing them because of our stories. And that never would have been if you hadn't have realized how important you guys are. You know what I mean? And can you imagine that power if more people understood that?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a completely different life that the world's living, So, again, I commend Anna and Michelle for getting back up on that stage again, and for Lucinda, Karen, and Heather. I mean, getting up there and just doing it. I mean, that's some scary crap.
Yeah.
Well, after
you too, John.
attending Behind the Power last year, I said yes to it at last year's event for this year. And I was able to do that because of all of you who were up on stage. And Lucinda, I remember you were up there with Coach Allyson and hot seating. And, it really impacted me. And I felt that this is truly inspiring. This is courageous. This is something that I just feel I need for myself, and I wanted to do. And I didn't know what it would look like, but, it just kind of all went from there.
Now, Heather, what guided you to do the chapter and the speech?
I mean, I've been working my business, well, at that point, for about 6 years, and it's something that I had on the to-do list, was to do, to write a book, to be an author, and to also be on stage and figure out how to make both of those things a reality. When I attended Behind the Power last year, I was coming out of a couple of years of certifications,
Mhm.
and I attended the event with kind of an ego place of I already know all this. I don't need ends or work and stuff like that. And so Allyson, when she sat down with me, she basically was yeah, I hear you, but you're also not at the place that you want to be at in your life and your business. And so she beautifully held a mirror up to me. And, it's so not only did I get from the program, of course, writing the book and the chapter, and then also the speech, but it's interesting because the way that the program is set up, we're doing a lot of inner work simultaneously. And so as we are doing inner work and we're growing and we're pulling apart these layers of the onion, it just so happens that we change. But because of this process of writing and then doing a speech, we're also then reflecting so much more than probably we wouldn't have had we not been through that process. So kind of looking back, it makes so much sense how we continued to witness ourselves in so much change, because we were put in that position to constantly witness ourselves and simultaneously continue to do the inner work to grow into this, new evolving human.
Right. Yeah, that all makes sense. It really does. Now,
But yeah, I mean, I definitely came to Behind the Power last year with I already know all of this stuff. I don't need any more programs.
well, I remember when I joined up with Allyson. It was actually it was before I joined. It was one of her painless pivots to power at the time, and I approached that as a, hey, I got nothing to do because I'm in between jobs. I might as well get something for free, not really knowing what it was going to be. And I think, it was really that what was it, 3 days? I think it was that 3 days I came out of the end of it thinking that I don't know anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's such a,
Isn't the ego so beautiful?
yeah, isn't it? Well, yeah, because I mean, we humans, I think, seem to think that we know everything that we need to know, and what we lose sight of is that we never stop learning.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, even like during the event, we had a guy that, came to talk to us about our money. And, a lot of what he was talking about, like I did know, but, Allyson encouraged us to, show up in this like dumb place. And I did actually learn a couple things from him. So the point is that, the ego is always going to come out and tell you, you already know all the things. You don't need this, like, just stay comfortable and just stay the same. So it's just interesting how it shows up so differently for all of us.
yeah, absolutely. And my daughter Tracy from Western New York says hello.
Hi, Tracy.
Hello, Tracy.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. So as women, because right now I'm the only guy, there was one other man who participated this year, Mark de Cordoba, who's unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. So it's predominantly a women participant group. That's an awkward way of putting it, but it's primarily women that make up Unapologetic Power. And being in the minority, what I've come to realize is that it doesn't really matter if you're a man or a woman. The fundamental concepts are applicable across the board. And I think, we've all been alive long enough to know that there still remains this divide between men and women. So I think my question is, I guess it's just maybe I'll put you on the spot here. Like Anna, what do you think about having men in the program? What's your take on that?
Well, I think traditionally men in society are not encouraged to feel their emotions. They're, supposed to man up and, take it like a man and, just not to show emotion and stuff. And so what happens if you don't feel your feelings? They get trapped inside of you and literally become, it leads to disease. It really does.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm so grateful that there are men in the program, and my husband is one of them now.
Indeed. Yep.
I'm so grateful that he decided to join. Yeah, and I've already seen the changes happening in him, and then one of his sisters attended, the live event.
You did, yes.
And she was seeing the changes as well, and so I'm great. I'm hoping that more men will join because, it's one of my lines in the speech was the ripple effects of people healing has a tremendous impact on all of us because we're all connected, but we're individuals.
Right.
So each of us working on ourselves is helping all of us. It's helping all of us. So
just lost Heather.
We lost Heather.
Yeah,
But yeah, and also I wanted to say that when I joined the program, I didn't think that I had any trauma. Like I didn't think I'd ever had any trauma. And then when I found out what it was, I realized I had a lot of trauma.
Right.
And I'm still learning about that and healing it and finally healing it, because I went through my whole life reacting with trauma responses that I didn't even realize that's what I was doing.
Right.
So I'm so grateful to have found this program, and yeah, I'm just so much gratitude. And the group of people, that we've worked with, we are all so supportive of each other, and that means the world to me, because I really had lost trust in humanity. When I had, first joined the program, I was like, I don't think I can trust anybody. but I went for it anyway, and I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, we're all the better for it. And I think that your ability to be able to quote yourself from the speech is awesome. I think that's awesome. So what
And
about
I
you?
want people to know how much was behind the scenes to this. We met every single week. We did we had
Oh, yeah.
classes.
Good point. Yep.
We also met, with our editor multiple times. I know I reached out to Laura many times just personally, just because she's such, so good at holding space and just being an ear. And that was so important to me, that I had someone that would listen without judgment and just hold space. And I'm just so grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna miss the program that, I know that you and I are signed up for next year. Also as Lucinda and Heather. But it's gonna be different. Next year's not gonna be the same as this year. So
No, it will be a little bit different, but no less impactful, and that's the beauty of
Yes.
what
Yes.
Allyson really has built. She's
Right.
built this. In many ways, it's self-sustaining when you think about it. And Michelle, being a coach, I think if anybody, you would get this, right? Because when you build a program where people are bettering themselves, when they're dealing with their trauma, like Anna mentioned. And then, of course, they're doing the scary things like Lucinda, Karen, and Heather did, doing these brand new things. Whether or not, people choose to continue with the particular coach, I think fundamentally you've built something that is repeatable, and there are tools there that can continue to help you grow as you move forward in time, right?
Absolutely. And I will say, though, that even coaches need coaches. And so it's a very, it's just a tremendous value when you can work with someone that can transform your life. And that was my experience in working with Allyson. I was already coaching when I met her, but when I listened to her talk, I realized that there was a part of me that had not been unearthed yet. And I knew that she would be the person. She was the missing piece of the puzzle for me for this particular area in my life. And I will forever be grateful for Allyson and for Laura and what they've taught us. And there are tools now that I already use in my life, and also in some ways adapting that and working with other people as well. And I would say for anyone who maybe is on the fence about working with someone, the really interesting thing is if you knew what to do, you would already be doing it.
Right.
But you don't really realize, how much you need a coach until you're actually working with one. And then it opens your eyes to, oh, there's more. There's more for me to learn. And again, Allyson introduced so many things into my life, with especially around the sexual abuse as a young child, that healing the inner child and getting to know her. And I'm just so grateful, because no one, even among my spiritual, growing up in a Christian environment, no one taught me about that. So Allyson really was able to pinpoint those things for me that I really needed.
Right.
And I know I can go forward, and I will go forward with everything that I've learned. And I have a ton of notes. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know about you guys, but every time she spoke, I was taking notes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it becomes habit forming in a good way.
of course.
You know what I mean? Because you really don't want to miss the important points. Now, Lucinda, and this question just popped into my head. We've got the book Behind the Power, right? We're part of Allison's program, Unapologetic Power. What does empowerment to you feel like?
It feels like it's okay to take up the space that I take up.
Mm.
It really feels like I am, when I'm feeling very empowered, which has gotten to be way more often than it used to be. Um, I feel like it's okay. It's okay for me to be me. I'm okay to be who I am.
Right.
But if I had to describe it in a particular way, it would be that it's okay to take up whatever space I take up. It doesn't matter. It's
Right.
safe.
And
So
yeah, and Karen, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. There's a freedom there that there's quite a release that you have. And, you're not, for me, I'm not concerned about what other people think anymore. I'm not concerned about, um, you know, doing the wrong thing. I own it and I'll figure it out. There's a lot of what you have all said. This has all been such a process, and you don't know what the other side is going to look like. But
Right.
this work is never done, and we continue to move through our lives, and changes happen for whatever reason. And so then we've got to pull in the tools again
Mhm.
for whatever circumstance there is, and not be ruled by the outside circumstance or the outside opinions. But, it's this freedom that, hey, now we have something to work with. I love the peeling away of the onion,
Mhm.
that there's always something more to uncover.
Right.
And to be able to fall back on each other, I feel like we can do that
Mhm.
forever, and I'm happy to say that. And all of our notebooks and notes that we have, and recordings. But these tools are really helpful, and we continue to learn as we grow.
Yeah. So Heather, what do you think the value is then of and I think we're kind of alluding to it with some of the conversation right now, but the value to coaching. I mean, what really is the value there for somebody that is perhaps thinking about it, right? Or maybe not. Maybe they're not even thinking about it. But what would you tell somebody um, about coaching?
Well, that's an interesting question. I guess I would go back to, are you living the life that you
Mm.
truly want to be living? Do you feel like you're living the life that you entered this planet, this body at this time? Like, are you doing the things that you feel are fulfilling your soul and your spirit? And I think if the answer is no, then, coaching is this opportunity for somebody to hold a mirror up to you, and also to really hold space with you. So it's not one of these, and I loved Allison's definition of the difference between therapy and coaching. Therapy is really when people go so long and they're not heard, they speak and nobody listens to them, and they're not seen and people don't see them. Therapy is for that. It's for a person to see and hear them. But I really think that coaching goes beyond that. It's really somebody who is there to help hold you accountable and to help, hold you up when things go awry. And I always think about it with like a coach that you would hire for your muscles or for the gym.
Right.
What is their job? Their job is to stand there and give you feedback, and then to help kind of kick your booty when you're getting like whiny, and the human side comes out of you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's the beauty in what, I do, and some of the others in the room that our coaches do, is that we're able to just hold beautiful space for people, and really show them what they're capable, like help them see what they're capable of. And I think that's what a big part of this program really helped us do.
Right.
John, can I piggyback off of Heather?
Absolutely.
So when I started coaching, I thought that I was going to be a health coach. And then I got the certification to health coach. But my jam is life coaching. I really love life coaching. But it's so interesting how things have evolved over the years that now I'm working with people around grief and loss, and it's unique to me because, but it's still like what Heather said. When you've experienced a loss of any kind, whether it's a death or retirement or health issues, legal problems, you think, what do I do now? And grief is no different, and so mine's a little there, but it has multi purposes because I can teach people how to uh, recover or work through their grief and take the next steps to move forward. And so I say that to say that so many times we might feel that we're so stuck in what we're experiencing that there is no hope, and there is hope. And so that's the beautiful thing about this kind of work. I mean, even with Allyson, with her cognitive behavioral coaching, I mean, my goodness, what a beautiful, what she's brought together to teach us, and so different tools for different jobs, different coaches or for different scenarios in life as well. So, it's I think it's really heartfelt driven service. It's very much from the heart to
Yeah, you,
support
you
people.
said something there that maybe I just, again, this just crossed my mind. I mean, if you're going to start a little league baseball team, you're going to want to go out and find a coach to help the kids get through that. And yet we're so reticent about doing it for ourselves. Is that weird or what?
Yes. Well,
You know
we
what I
know
mean?
where that comes from, right?
Oh yeah, we absolutely do, right? But what's interesting about the program that we're all in, because I've been with Allison now for almost 3 years, and I mean, there are certain themes that do come up from time to time that, one could easily say, well, she's repeating herself, like money, right? Money comes up quite often in the program because money is it's a high stakes thing in our lives, higher vibrational. Um, and oftentimes we think that there just isn't any money for us, but of course we know that that's not true. Um, but what I found interesting over the last 3 years is that there's always something new. And I think that's also a very important thing when we're talking about coaching or life coaching or however you want to define that term, right? You've got somebody that's willing to um, look at how your life is going based on your own definition and then offering cognitive or spiritual or some other, mechanism to help you see where the blind spots that you have are. You know what I mean? And that's that's powerful when you think about it.
I'd like to follow up on that,
Sure.
John. One of the things that I feel you bring to the table a lot when we're on our calls in our classes and, um, even in your speech, sure, we may have heard about fear before. We
Right.
may have talked about money before, all the things, as she says, as
Hmm.
Allyson says. But because we're growing and because we're changing as we're going through this program, just like our audience, they all heard themselves in everything that we spoke about. And
Right.
each time that the money story comes up again, we're hearing it differently.
Yep.
And a lot of times, John, I know that you say, Allison, you have talked to us about this before, but I'm hearing this differently this time. I'm hearing it, this new way, and maybe it's because of what happened to me last week or whatever. But that's why coaching, and I'll never forget when she said that the difference between coaching and therapy. Therapy is we talk, coaching, the coach talks.
Right.
And that kind of made me question it in the beginning just because I've had neither.
Hmm.
Um, but once I realized, you know, I need help with my direction. I know that, and that's why I'm here.
Right.
And I'm willing to grow and adjust and learn. it made all the difference for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, because growing isn't easy.
No.
It's, and we all know that because we're getting older. I mean, I'm 58. I'm going to be 59 next year, and it's not any easier. So growing in and of itself is a painful process, or it can be, if you're doing it on your own. I don't know how we all, I'm sure, have stories about people that we know that just can't seem to get their stuff together, and then you can't help but sit back and go, well, it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
And it really is a shame because every one of you, some I've known a little bit longer than others, you are not the same people that I knew when I first met you by a long shot. Lucinda, great example. Oh my heavens. Huge difference with you. I mean, you had me work on something today so that you could put yourself out there to meet people and get compensated for these services. And Anna, you're looking forward to this grand vision of this transformation station. Amazing, right? Michelle, you've got the coaching thing and you got this office space now. And Heather,
Yeah.
you're going to be on my podcast next week, which, by the way, is going to be amazing. I can't wait. You got that going for you, right? And of course, Karen, even just talking to you, I can hear the difference, and a lot of the credit goes to Allyson for her coaching. Check that. But it's you guys are the one that are doing it. She's pointing things out. You're fathoming it, use a nautical term, and then you're making the decision on whether or not to move forward, and you're all moving forward. And that is such a cool thing.
I will tell you, John, that this has been my job. This work has been my job for the past 2 years, especially when after a move, I wasn't able to find employment right away. So I just made doing this work like a job. Right. And I'm very glad and very thankful that I did. And very appreciative of all of the effort. I mean, Laura and Allyson and then our other coaches that have come in and helped us to do this have spent a lot of time and a lot of energy in helping us. And sometimes it takes more than one coach, We had a writing coach and Allyson, and then we had 2 other coaches that we could talk with if we needed extra help with something. And I don't think that you could do it without that. Certainly not on a solo track. I hesitate to think that could be a joyful process where this year had its ups and downs, but it was a joyful process for me the whole time.
Yeah, it's like that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It really takes a community of like-minded people to raise adults. Because it ain't easy. Because like somebody had alluded to, they don't teach you this. Nobody teaches you how to navigate, and when you get in those stuck areas, those dead end areas, or those feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, it can be overwhelming. But the thing is that there are resources,
and when you find out that you don't have to be stuck in those patterns, John,
right,
anymore, that's life-changing.
Yeah. Anna?
For me, I didn't even know, I knew when I joined, my problem was I was angry all the time, and I just couldn't get over it. And then after I was in the program for a while, I realized that it wasn't anger that I was stuck in, it was fear. And I was using my anger to cover up the fact that I was fearful, because it felt more powerful to be angry.
Sure. And
it's like a night and day difference being aware of what's going on. It's the awareness really is the first step in our healing. And working with a coach, they can see the blind spots that we cannot see. And that's why I would recommend to everyone to find a coach that you can relate with, and they can help you, put the mirror on you and show you what you're not seeing.
Right.
Because I was on a healing journey. I thought I was on a healing journey, and I was getting a little better on my own, but I would never be where I'm at now if I hadn't started working with Allyson and Laura.
Yeah. I think the key thing there is to, take that, and that would be part of radical personal responsibility as well. It's a matter of actually taking an action to better yourself. You know what I mean? And I think, for those people that do tend to poo-poo this subject, and there's a lot out there. I'll say that life coaching and all this other stuff is, a passing fad, or, just something to blow money on, right? But the fact of the matter is, when you find the right person that gives you the attention that you deserve and can help point out blind spots and can help give you the tools that you then can leverage to improve yourself, then it's all worth it, because, even the smallest change makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
It leads to the next change.
And what?
It leads to the next change.
Yeah. And
each little step you take leads to the next one. And
right. And it also has external, that ripple effect, right?
Yes.
It will affect other people, and that's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
well,
even John, I was just going to say, let's just talk about you for a minute here, because, in the time that we've known you, wow,
Right.
you've grown in so many ways, and it's so funny because I know your facial expressions. I know when you take your glasses off and rub your face, you are really getting challenged, But even just earlier this year when we were in Sedona and you were talking about wanting to do a broadcast, and what are you frickin' doing now?
I know.
You're doing a broadcast.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. How about that? That is, yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It really has been, I feel different than I did 3 years ago. I feel different now than I did a year ago or 6 months ago, and it's a matter kind of like you, Anna, when you were talking about anger or fear, anger hiding the fear. I think a lot of, what I've suffered through for the last, 3 or 4 decades has been that. It's, I've like most of us that grew up, between the 70s and 80s. It was not easy because parents were taught differently than they are today. While it doesn't appear as if the world around us has gotten necessarily any better, I won't say that it's gotten any worse, because I still remember in, all up to first or second grade having air raid drills and having to hide underneath my desk because we were afraid that we were going to get the atomic bomb dropped on something. And this was as late as the 70s, you know what I mean? Let alone the fallout from the Vietnam War and all this other stuff that was going on simultaneously. So, I have grown up in fear. And I think a lot of the decisions that I made were fear-based, and then led me down the anger road because it was really easy. It's always easy to blame the outside circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's always somebody else's fault. When the fact is that that you own the response, you own the thoughts, you own the actions. And when I started to really realize that, it makes it really easy now to get up in the morning and decide how I'm going to feel that day. And that makes a huge difference. And that's made a huge difference in my life. And I couldn't have done it without the program, because I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have seen it, the blind spot business, right? I never would have known.
Right.
So
I'm proud of all of us.
I am as well.
Me
Yeah.
too.
We did it.
Yes.
We did it.
Absolutely.
We did.
So, but before we go, we're at about 10 minutes, or 50 minutes into the hour. Can't speak. I'd like to know if anybody has any closing. Let's see. How do we want to do this? Let's do closing.
What about what if we shared kind of like what's our next thing?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'd love that, Heather. Yes. Thank you. You see, that's why I got you on next week. I can't wait. You'll be helping me through the whole darn thing. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's start with that. Why don't we start with you, Heather, since you brought it up?
Yes. So my next thing is going to be doing a TEDx talk and writing a book next year. I'm also going to be launching a retreat of my own, hopefully during the eclipse that's happening in April. So that's kind of what came up for me during the event, was to kind of I've been sitting on it for about 2 years, and no better time like the present, right?
Will you be in the eclipse path during your? I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes. Yeah. So if I do it here in New Orleans, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be in the 100% path. I was in the 70% path in the one that we just had a couple weeks ago, and the energy was amazing,
Mm,
to say the least. And I was also in the equinox in September, and the energy was amazing. So I don't know. I just feel very called to hold a ceremony like that. So I guess I'm putting it out there into like public spaces.
mhm.
So now y'all are gonna probably hold me accountable and ask me. So how's that retreat going, Heather?
Right. That's right. We're going to hold you accountable. You got 5 of us here, let alone anybody else that's going to watch the replays or watch this thing live. You're going to have a lot of people holding you accountable on that.
Sounds like my kind of place,
Yeah.
my
Yes,
kind of event.
Yeah.
yes. I'm gonna do it. And in my mind right now, it's funny. My mind is like, "Bitch, you're not gonna do this." So
Yeah, but we know who's talking. That's the beauty of it.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's me. Thank you, Don.
Oh, you're welcome. And what about you, Karen? Looks like we temporarily lost Lucinda's video, but what about you, Karen? What's next for you?
Yeah, I'm going to take this new body, mind, and attitude for a walk into my next whatever it is. I'm going to continue. We have our business that I'm really working in, and I have an organization that I'm working with, a nonprofit organization, and really just being very authentic and free to do what I want and not get so caught up in specifics. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to tap into what little Karen is going through and just keep that in the forefront and,
Right.
be good to myself and
Yeah.
those around me.
Yeah. Yeah, you deserve it too. You need to be good to yourself. You know what I mean? We all do.
Thank you. And John, I just want to say a quick thank you. I have my piece of art that you created,
Hey.
and I just love it. Thank you so much
Wonderful.
for
I'm
this.
glad. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, so going forward for me, I'm continuing with my life coaching and grief coaching, and I am. It took me 6 months to find an office space, so I was coaching virtually. So I now have the option to coach virtually, but also in person.
Mhm.
And I am beginning to. I actually have a doodling workshop that I am holding here in Asheville, and working with people around grief and loss. And so I'm going to continue to be a light, to be able to support people in this grief work.
Mhm.
And I have a public Facebook group called Grief Recovery Support that people can go to. And it is something that I give to the world as far as support around grief and loss goes. And so I'm just out there giving love, support, and shining light. And I'm just gonna keep doing this until I don't have any more breath, because I love it that much.
Amazing. That is amazing.
Thank you.
And Anna?
So you mentioned briefly that I'm developing my business transformation station, and basically the idea came about because I suppressed all my emotions and kept them in my body and literally made myself physically ill. And I know that many people hold their emotions in their body because people have chronic headaches, neck tension, they hold their shoulders up all the time, they have IBS. And these are all trapped emotions. So I want to help people to get that out of their body and then change their mindset so they don't do it the next time.
Right.
So I'm still looking for the location to do it in, the brick and mortar. But I did start a website. But I learned from Kim Nishida at the event that I need to do some marketing.
Oh, marketing, yeah.
And so that's what I need to get focused on, is that. And then, of course, I am in the launch program, so I will be writing a book and on the TEDx stage as well, and hopefully using all that to promote the business as well. And because I'm like Michelle, I want to help others, the way that I've been helped. And yeah, and it's funny, my sister-in-law asked for my help, and I've been coaching her for the past couple months. And I had a session with her today, and I've been going through a little bit of something after the event, an aha moment for me that I didn't really realize, and it was hitting me pretty hard. And doing the session with her today helped me as well. And I sent a message to Allyson, and I said, yeah, I'm feeling much better after I did the coaching session with her. And she goes, funny how that works.
Yeah.
So, we helping others is also helping ourselves. So I want to continue doing that.
Amazing. I can't wait. I cannot wait till you find a place. I'm just so excited to see how that's going to go for you. I really am.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And
I have a
Lucinda,
feeling there's going to be more than one.
yeah. And Lucinda, what about you? What's next for you?
Well, I will be also writing a book and on a TEDx stage as well. But I am currently putting together a program that can be taught to children that will help them to do a couple of things. One, it will help them to see their animals, their pets, as the divine beings that they are, just like human beings are divine.
Right.
And it will allow them to learn to express their emotions, as well as to identify what the emotion is by connecting closer with that animal. For instance, teaching them to tell the dog about, or dog or cat or whatever pet they have, about their day at school, which may help them identify something that went on at school and talk about it. It's a safe space.
Right.
Animals are so safe for you to talk to. So that's also happening in the background, as well as doing intuitive readings. So
just the amount of things that you guys are doing, it's boggling my mind. As far as I go, I will also be writing the book, TEDx, the whole 9 yards. And as far as any other aspects, I've been mulling over this idea of a second podcast, specifically designed to have people tell their stories, because, when I talk with the various guests that I have on the show about art, which is awesome. I would never change this. I just love how this goes. But inevitably, other things start to creep in, which in and of themselves would be an amazing thing to talk about, yet just don't quite fit that. So the halting point, or the stopping point for me right now, is finding a name. So for any of you folks that are watching the replays or watching live, or any of you guys, if you have ideas, send them my way. My wife and I, Christine, have been trying to figure this out, and we just can't figure that out. But I really am excited to do something like that, because I think there's value in storytelling. There's value in what we're doing right now. The fact that you guys all participated tonight to tell your feelings and opinions and perspectives on how the event went. It's all meaningful. It's all meaningful. And that's what we all need to realize as people, is that we all have value and that we all bring meaning. So that's my short-term goal. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'll be on TV or something. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for spending the hour with me. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Michelle, Lucinda. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Karen. And for those that couldn't make it, no harm, no foul. I know that this is an awkward time sometimes for folks. But to the other authors and the other speakers, you guys were just as good, just as powerful. And of course, to Allyson and to Laura, I wouldn't be having this conversation right now if not for those two. So
Yep.
my love goes out to you guys. My love goes out to them. Next week, I have Heather Doran. It's going to be an amazing conversation. She's already a pro at this now, right? Matter of fact, she runs her own podcast. And Heather, what's the name of your podcast?
It's called Unblock Your Money Shit.
And I tell you, coming because I drove 16 hours from Atlanta up here, and I ended up re-listening to the conversation you had with Allyson, and then one of your other ones. I forgot what the other one was,
Oh,
but
nice. Okay.
man, yeah, you were like, all you guys are awesome speakers, not only on the stage, but even conversations we have here. But Heather, man, I tell you, that was such a good quality podcast.
Oh, thank
Really,
you.
really, really good. So you guys should check that out as well. So, but anyway,
And
next
here
week,
I was,
Tuesday night-
thinking about giving it up.
Oh, I wouldn't, because I tell you, you're a talker, and we like talkers. Talkers are awesome.
Thank
But
you,
anyway,
John.
thank you guys
Thank
very
you,
much.
John.
Good to
You're
see
welcome.
everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so very much for joining me on the Art Talk podcast, where it's my goal to bring artists together to talk about their craft. If you'd like to join me for a conversation, please reach out via email at johncoleartist@gmail.com or by visiting my website at johnrobertcole.com. So until next time, keep crafting, painting, and inspiring others with your creativity. You make more of an impact than you know. See ya.